Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Psycho Opinion. Today, as you see, we have got Liza back.
Yeah.
It's been a while, so thank you for coming back, Liza. See, they always come back.
I always come back.
Liza is with us today because she's part of the show. She will be taking breaks from time to time. But as of right now, she's a part of the show. She's here with us today, and we are discussing something very near and dear to her, which is the Appalachian Trail.
Yes.
So this monster, spanning from Georgia to Maine, 2,190 plus miles, is a trail that I think it said, I read a couple different places, but I think it said something like 7-8 million people a year are on this trail, even if it's just for part of it.
Yeah, like section hikers.
Yeah, like section hikers and things like that. I mean, this trail is very well traveled.
Yeah, it's very well maintained too.
And so we're going to discuss that because we kind of thought it'd be interesting to kind of go over the whole spiel, and some of the parts of this show will reveal themselves as we go, but there's kind of some interesting reasons why we did this one. So, to get us started, I kind of wanted Liza to jump here and give us sort of an introduction to the trail. She does have personal experience with this that she's going to share with us, and we'll kind of learn as we go here. So please, Liza, introduce us to the trail.
Yeah, so I kind of want to start off with, in 2015, I did do 1,256 miles of the AT. It was from Georgia to Pennsylvania. I only did that section. So I do kind of want to start out with, however, I'm not a through hiker, because I know like some professional hikers will be like, she only did like half the trail. But
and fuck those people. I'm just going to go ahead and say that now. And I'm going to say that because I still think that that's an extraordinary accomplishment. I think anybody that gets out there and tries to do something and can even do that much of it, like, congratulations. That is no small feat. And if anybody thinks that that's not good enough, or you are below them because you did not finish the ultra, fuck them. Anyway, continue.
Well, thank you. So in 2015, I was NOBO, which means northbound. I started in Georgia, Springer Mountain.
Is that, I'm sorry, just because I'm actually learning a lot about this too.
Yeah.
Liza did share a lot of these details with me when she got back, but I don't remember everything. Is that the common starting place?
So it kind of, so the trail has two terminals, I guess, what would you call it? They have the northern, which is Katahdin. That is if you're going to do Sobo, you're southbound, which means you start at Katahdin, Maine.
Okay.
And you go down to Springer, Georgia. Sometimes they start. I'm a little fuzzy about when they start, but it's all about how the snow on the mountain of Katahdin does.
I was going to say you're probably trying to beat the elements either coming down or going up.
Yeah.
So it's probably realistically the same principle both ways.
Yes.
You're probably just trying to miss whatever that.
Yeah.
The kind of worst weather is going to be.
Exactly. So I think Sobos typically start around like November, December-ish.
Okay.
And then they come.
That's got to be.
Now don't get me wrong.
I was going to say.
No. Actually, no. I think I'm wrong on that. I can't. I wasn't Sobo. I don't know. Well, Nobos. Okay, I'll give you what I do know. Nobos usually start. The main start, I think, is April. Mm-hmm. I started in March. I started March 17th, and so it's usually people start anywhere from January to about April. It usually start getting kind of fuzzy around May. Like you won't beat the snow. In Katahdin, I think they maybe close it down like in October, November.
Yeah, I was going to say those months in the sort of leading up to December are usually really rough. Growing up in the north myself, I know that can be a rough time of year up there. Is that kind of November, December, January, February is kind of really rough up there. So
yeah, so there have been some really hardcore hikers that have done it, have started at Katahdin in December, and but I have not. So yeah, in 2015, I just really wanted to hike the trail, and I told my dad about it, and we started off the trail together, and that was an incredible experience. I really loved the trail, and I do want to say that I want to start out with the psychology portion of the trail, and it's like just about how nature can actually change your brain, and there have been studies on that. And I read an article called The Greater Good magazine. It was How Nature Can Make You Kinder, Happier, and More Creative by Jill, the last name is Suddy. And she said, the researcher David Strayer of the University of Utah is quoted by saying, now we are seeing changes in the brain and changes in the body that suggest we are physically, mentally more healthy when we are interacting with nature. And a Japanese study actually had people walk in a forest, and they walked in, and then there was two groups. The first group walked in a forest, and the second group walked in an urban setting, and they both had equal length, equal difficulty, and the ones who walked in the forest had significantly lower heart rates. They were more relaxed and less stressed, and the participants reported better moods and less anxiety.
I would completely agree with that without even looking at the information, because, I'm a huge believer that, nature, obviously we have a connection to nature. We have a connection to the simpler things in life. That's, kind of where we came from, where we started. And I talk about all the time, even on the show, about how I think technology is like the beginning of the brain dead society, which sucks that we're a part of that and that my children are growing up through that. But, so I would totally believe that. Is that what the basis is around? Is kind of just that serene atmosphere? Is it just because maybe the oxygen is better? Maybe it just the whole setting is better? What are the factors that kind of make that more?
Yeah, so later on, I was going to kind of talk about my personal experience and kind of some of my theories on why I think that is, but I did kind of want to start out with that study, so you can kind of keep that in mind as I kind of talk about my stories and my personal experiences and stuff like that.
So right now we're just saying that there is research that has been done, and that does prove that being in nature and doing things like hiking this trail and going camping and things like that are definitely good for the mind, body, and soul.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I wanted to start out with, the first is courage to not give up. So as I mentioned, me and my dad started at Springer Mountain in, I believe it was March 17th, 2015. And the first 30 miles, there is a mountain called Blood Mountain. And I can't remember exactly what the mile marker is, but it's around 30-ish, 40-ish miles. And so we hiked.
You wouldn't happen to know why it's called Blood Mountain, would you? That's that's the first thing that I'm thinking.
I can't remember, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but I think it happens to do, there was a battle there, and stuff like that. So, but I can't quite remember exactly why it's called.
I'll accept that. I might look that up later. Blood Mountain's a really cool name.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's actually a really hard mountain, and some people actually quit at this mountain because it is kind of tough. And so, being a novice hiker, I had hiked, but I had never hiked to the point of hiking over like 10 miles a day. And
I had that written down. It said that to be successful, people are typically looking at 14 to 20 miles a day.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. And so when I hiked this, I had completely the wrong shoes. Like, I had hiking boots, but I wear a size 8.5, and so I got a size 8.5 hiking boot. And so when you hike, your feet actually swell, and you're wearing thicker socks. So I actually had to go up to a 9.5 when
I was going to say the socks probably. You'd want thicker, dry, nice, thick socks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as I was going down the mountain, the boots were my toes were knocking against the boots. And
the boots were knocking.
Yes. And it was
in a good way.
Quite painful.
Not in a good way.
Yeah, it was quite painful. It was not a very good experience, but my dad just kept encouraging me. He's like, baby girl, let's just keep going. Let's keep going. And so when I got to the bottom of the mountain, I have never been more terrified to take my shoes off. And almost all of my toenails were black. I had a blood blister, and I eventually wound up losing about 7 or 8 of my toenails. And so that was a good lesson
Well,
learned.
I guess Liza's not getting a career in foot fetish pictures
Yes.
on the internet or anything anytime soon after this trail.
Yeah, so me and my dad, we just stayed at the cabins in Blood Mountain, and we took a day. We took a 0 day, which means you do 0 miles, and we just kind of
Yeah, there's
hung
this
out at the
whole,
cabin.
there's a whole, when we were researching for this and preparing for this, there's a whole, like, bunch of lingo for hikers. So 0 is a 0 day. I knew that from my research.
Yeah, so we took a 0 day, and also from the lingo, you do get all trail names, and my trail name was Twizzler, and my daddy gave me that trail name because I was hiking eating Twizzlers.
Yeah, so you brought that up, so I don't want to segue too much. I want to make sure that we do stay on track here, but since you brought that up, that is something I wanted to mention is, so this was kind of fun. I was looking up a bunch of information on hikers and stuff, and everybody has all these really interesting names. They have some of them have really cool names, some of them have really weird names, some of them have kind of corny names.
Yeah.
So, like, what is this? Tell me about the names. Where do people get these from? How does this originate?
Yeah.
And is this an anonymity thing? Are people trying to remain anonymous on the trail? Is that why they have trail names, or is it just a fun thing to do?
I think it's just I don't really know the origin of it, but it's just kind of like a fun kind of like rite of passage when you are trying to do the trail, and you typically get your trail name. You're usually bestowed it, like somebody bestows it upon you, and it's usually something funny that you've done, or just something silly, or something that is just a good memory, or just something by somebody knows. Like if somebody has like orange shoes or something, like orange boots or something, their trail name might be like orange boots or something like that.
So, but like, do you have any say in this? Because I mean, you get on the trail, you're walking for a good mile, all of a sudden you step in fucking bear shit. And then somebody's like, hey, bear shit. You know, I mean, you don't want to be bear shit on the trail
Well, I will
for the
tell
rest
you,
of your life.
that
on the
has
trail.
happened sometimes. Usually you can, like, if somebody, like, says, like, oh, you're this, and you're like, okay, yeah, I don't mind that. But there have been instances where there was a guy, I won't say his name because I didn't really know him that well, but he was known as something, and then everybody just kind of called him that, and he was like, no, that's not my trail name. And then everybody just kind of kept calling him that, and that was like, that's what he was known as, and so he just kind of had to accept it. So
I might step off the trail for a little while and let everybody go on, and then, let all the people go on that know me as, Pinky Dick or whatever, and just let all those people go on, and then I'm going to find a new group of people and follow up behind and tell them that my name is like fucking, Thunderballs or something.
Yeah.
And then just let that be. And then when we run into those people later on, they'll be like, no, that's not Pinky Dick, that's Thunderballs. And I'll be like, fuck yeah, you don't know me.
yeah.
But I definitely wouldn't want to be bear shit. So,
Well, But I mean, some people, you can choose your name. Like, you can come on the trail and be like, hey, my name's like Blondie or something.
But I bet you there's some people that go on the trail and pick like Thor or Zeus or some shit, and I
Yeah.
bet you like people are like, what an asshole. Like, how you gonna come on the trail and just like call yourself like fucking Thor? Like,
Well, my
you
dad
dick.
was Odin.
Yeah, but I mean, I've met your dad. Your dad looks like Odin.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
In all fairness,
And everybody's like, okay, yeah.
I mean, in all fairness, your father had the big beard, the gray hair.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked like Norse god looking dude.
yeah.
But I'm saying, like, if I was to go on there, kind of this unfit, whatever the fuck, and I'm just like, I'm Thor, I would expect people to be like, dude, you're a dick. Like, you've got to be an asshole to give yourself that name. I'm just saying, I feel like it'd be that way. But I'm gonna think about this through the show, and maybe I'll come up with a name for myself here, or maybe you can bestow one upon me by the end of this.
Exactly.
So then that way, when I do go on there, if I ever go on there, I'm like, fucking, this is it. Don't call me bear shit.
And then the other thing is just kind of the courage to not give up, because unfortunately at about mile 100, my dad had to get off because his Achilles I don't want to go into it, but
There was an injury involved.
yeah, there was an injury,
And honestly, I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say right away here that there are certain injuries that if you were to push through, you'd be just stupid because you'd only hurt yourself.
yeah, and even blisters. Like, I've seen
Yeah.
people that have actually had to stop the trail because of blisters.
Like, it's not worth it to cause
Yeah.
yourself permanent, serious injury. I mean, the trail will be there. Don't be a fucking hero. If something gets bad enough, be
Yeah,
smart.
Exactly. So he did have to, unfortunately, get off the trail, and that was a hard, hard day for me because I thought I had this dream of me and my dad reaching Katahdin, and it was just going to be like this amazing thing, and he did have to get off. And I do want to say that my dad did it after chemotherapy. He had pancreatic cancer, and he did this after chemotherapy with pancreatic cancer. My dad has
Liza's
passed
father
away.
was a super beast. He after fighting cancer, he was still one of those guys who just decided to live, and I admire him for that. So.
Yeah. And my dad has since passed away, so these are just incredible memories that I have with him. But he was an animal. He did 100 miles on the trail after chemotherapy.
After cancer.
Yes, exactly. So.
And he wasn't a young man.
No.
I mean, I'm just putting that out there too, because I mean, I feel age every day, and he wasn't a young man. So, all the power to him. I mean, I think he did great.
Yeah, and so that day was just really tough, and so I went. He dropped me off, and onto the trail alone, and
So what you're talking about not giving up, because I feel like I segued by saying don't be a hero. What you're talking about is just having the kind of like the spiritual or mental or emotional strength to continue on and not let those things get to you, not let the small things get to you, to kind of build that strength within yourself to carry on.
Well, even sometimes the big things, because this is actually the first time I had ever camped alone, hiked alone. And this was the most terrifying experience of my life because I was completely alone. You're always aware that there's going to be bears, there's going to be snakes, there's everything. And my dad, when we were in hammocks and when my dad would snore at night, it would comfort me because I knew he was there and everything was safe. And so I didn't have that. When I was alone. So I was terrified. I was terrified of other people,
What was your, and once again, I'm not trying to veer off here, but what was your method of camping? Because I read a lot of people do the hammock camping to get up off the ground. Okay.
I did a hammock, but I do not like the hammock. I do not recommend that. A lot of people love it. I love a tent. I'm a tent person, and I do like a 2-person tent. I tried a 1-person tent. I don't like a 1-person tent.
Okay.
So that day was just it was Easter, and it was so terrifying, and I almost got off the trail because I was just so scared, and it was just not a good experience. And so I called my dad. I got up to a shelter. There's a couple of shelters all along. There's a lot of shelters along the way.
Do you have cell phone reception through most of the trail, or
yes and no? I think it should be better now,
Okay.
But it's kind of in and out. I mean, you have to go on there that you're not going to have like cell phone reception.
Okay.
So I found cell phone reception, and I called my dad and I said, I want to get off the trail, Dad. Like, I don't like this. It's not the same without you. I'm constantly terrified. I'm constantly scared. And I was upset because I was going slow, and I just wanted to give up. And so my dad was like, okay. He's like, baby girl, just think about it overnight, and if you still want to, he's like, hike to the certain point, and if you still feel like that, I'll come and get you. So I hiked the next day, and I woke up, and I realized that I had caught up to a lot of people that I didn't think I was going to catch up to.
Okay.
Because I was so terrified that I had actually gone more miles than I actually had gone 16 or 17 miles, and I didn't realize that I had gotten that far.
Now, also, I've never been on the trail. Is it easy to navigate as far as
Yes.
Is it very well laid out as far as like because I hear stories
Yes.
about a lot of different trails, because I listen to true crime, David Politis, all that stuff, and I do hear all the time about people going off the trail by accident, things like that. But the Appalachian Trail in particular, is it very well marked?
Yes.
Is it easy to kind of
Yes.
like it'd almost be hard to get off the trail?
So I do want to kind of say that I am extremely good at directions. Hopefully I've never really been that lost in the woods, but I do have extremely good directions. But at the same time, the trail is marked with white blazes.
Okay.
And so I think sometimes if maybe you like veer off the trail, like if you
White blazes, spray paint on a tree.
Yeah, that's basically
Okay.
what it looks. A white blaze. It's basically a tree, and it has a white line, like a white mark.
Okay.
And that is the AT symbol. So you'll see a lot of people like with a shirt with a tree and a white blaze. That's the AT.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
yeah. So I had realized that I felt really good about myself. I felt like I could do it. I just wanted to keep going, and so I kept going without my dad, and that was something that was pretty hard for me. And so I did find a group of friends, and we hiked a little bit together. So
Okay.
yeah. And then another thing about the trail is you really appreciate, especially in the first. This isn't as much. You kind of get used to it as the months go on, but especially the first 2 weeks, you really learn to appreciate a bed, a toilet paper, and your family. Toilet paper, you do have toilet paper with you on the trail. You can bring it on the trail and bury it.
I heard that that's called, that there's a word for that. Using putting some of this knowledge that I looked up here to good use, and that is,
A cat hole.
cat hole. No, cat hole was something else.
Oh, okay.
Cat hole was a small hole dug in the ground for human waste.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking it is, damn. Mountain money. Mountain money is toilet paper.
Okay, yeah, because you have to be kind of sparing with your toilet paper because you don't know when you're going to be able to go into a town and resupply.
Mountain money. Y'all were stealing toilet paper at hotels, weren't you?
No comment.
No comment.
But you do
Those
learn.
people.
You do learn to be very savvy, and you do learn to, like, when you go into a town, you're always like constantly looking for an outlet because you're like, I need to charge my phone, I need to charge all my stuff, I need toilet paper. And you do learn to appreciate a bed and a toilet. Oh, like a nice working toilet is so amazing. And then just certain people in your family, like my mom, my dad, my brother, you guys at home. I missed you guys so much.
Cheers.
And so there was a point where I would eat. I stopped at Food Lion and I got a bologna sandwich with mustard, and I just ate that, and it just reminded me so much of home.
Well, if you're gonna eat a bologna sandwich, I would definitely suggest that you have it with mustard. So you had told me when you were on the trail, because we're kind of at that point where I think this is relevant to bring up. You and a bunch of other hikers would like rent a room, and so that you could use the showers and the phones and the
the beds.
So about how many of you were there?
So sometimes you would just rent it. You could rent it by yourself, but a lot of hikers, would
To save money.
Yeah,
Which
and
was
just so you
another-
can have a shower and.
I read here also that because I was kind of looking up like what is the average amount of money you'd want to be on the trail. It came up like $5,000 to $7,000 would be sort of your kind of comfort,
you could do that.
Minimum comfort. So I'm sure that a lot of times you're trying to save money. So maybe between you and some other hikers, hey, let's rent this room together. $100 room. There's 4 of you, $25 each.
And exactly. Yeah, that's what you would do. Is you would just rent because basically you just want a bed and a shower. That's all you wanted. And a good steak in town.
Well, if you had enough people with you, how do you decide who gets the better? Do you take turns, or y'all just sleep in a pile, or how does that work?
Well, honestly, there are places like hostels and stuff where you can just set your tent up and you just basically just are there to have a shower. Like you just want to and wash your clothes. You can have a shower and wash your clothes. So I think it's not really like sometimes it's about the bed, but other times it's just you just want a shower and you want to wash your clothes.
Okay.
So, so some people, they'll give like $10. Hey, $10. Let me take a shower in your room. And
So are these set towns? Like are there known to be towns that are close to the trail that people specifically go to?
yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are certain ones. Like Damascus is a big one. They have
So-
trail days there. And
So a
stuff
lot
like
of times people would be like, hey, let's hike up to this point, and then we'll get
Yeah.
off in this town.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, but not necessarily like every town because you do like want it because if you did that, that would be really expensive and that would just be so you do kind of like when you resupply when you go into town and you resupply, you do try to get you try to make your pack as little as possible and you try to get like the biggest bang for your buck. Like you want your protein, your noodles, like ramen noodles are big, tuna's big.
Things that weigh less but sit heavy in your stomach, or
Taco Bell
not
sauce.
sit heavy in your stomach, but feed you. You know,
Yeah,
give you nutrition.
yeah. Taco Bell sauce sriracha, like those are huge things. Um, so yeah, those are kind of what you do. That is part of the trail. Like you are able to go to towns and resupply and restock and stuff like that. So another kind of thing, the second thing I wanted to go into is the trail is more mental than physical, because when I first started the trail, I was comparing myself to everybody, and I was like, I saw these two girls, and they were so physically fit, and I was just like, oh man, like they are gonna make it so much further than me. They are gonna make it, and they stopped like day 2. They were like, we're done. And I saw other people that were, and I was like, oh wow, I don't know if they're gonna make it too far. They're, either if they weren't physically fit or they were just whatever. And some of them made it further than the majority of other people, because it's all about mental. Because you're constantly, when you're on the trail, you are constantly wet, you are constantly uncomfortable, you are rained on, you go through the mud, like the Smokies, a lot of people call it the Soakies, because you're always wet, and you're always you're freezing in the winter, or you're so extremely hot in the summer. So you really have to have that strong mental ability. And also there's bears, and there's other people, and it's just, you kind of have to be kind of vigilant at night, and you are very, very uncomfortable on the trail because your feet are constantly in pain, your knees are constantly in pain. So it is way, way, way more mental than physical. I mean, you do have to be able to actually hike and walk.
I mean, it sounds like it'd be more mental or emotional, because it sounds like your entire benefit from doing this is to say that you did it. I don't see what other benefit there would be besides saying that you did it, knowing that you did it, having it be an obstacle that you overcame, which I would say is a lot more mental and emotional than physical, because I mean, you're not really, I don't know if maybe you might lose a little weight or something, but I don't really know if overall the physical benefits really hold on.
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot. I mean, it is really hard on your body. I mean, there are really good physical things to it, but I think a lot of it for me, even if I didn't finish it, it taught me so much about myself. It taught me so much about my courage. And I think the benefit of doing it is see how far you can push yourself, and how much mental stability that you can take, and how much sacrifice you can take. So I think that's a lot of it too. Not necessarily. I mean, it's like really cool to be like, hey, I thru hiked. For people to be like, hey, I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail and stuff like that. So, but to me, it's more of the mental capacity. And for the people that, even though like if you do pass a lot of people, I found that a lot of the people that weren't as physically fit, they kept a slow and steady pace, and they just kept going, and they were just able to do it.
Oh yeah, that's me. You get up to me and go ahead and see. That's the funny thing is, like, I walk fast, and I'm a fast walker and stuff, but like if I did something like the trail, I feel like I'd want to kind of take my time. I mean, as much as I would probably at some point be like, I just want to get there. I don't know, I'm starting to have like knee problems and back problems and all that, which is something that I was also kind of wondering about with the trail, is because even though you'd probably have a diet and you'd be busy enough, I know you'd lose weight, I know you'd probably tone up, you'd probably have a lot of really good health benefits physically to this. I would also imagine that like it would also be a little detrimental in the fact that like if you start to have ankle pain or knee pain or back pain or any of those places where you have the pressure on it while you're walking, you're not stopping. There is no rest. And even like when you're working out, I know they say, hey, don't work out so many days in a row, have a day of rest. Whereas this is it's essentially working out. It's essentially, it's like being on the treadmill on the hardest setting for days at a time. So does that happen a lot, where people kind of start to get like, oh man, my knee's bad, and then it's like, well, how do you recover from that, or how do you keep going when you get something like that, but it's like you're not getting off it?
So like if something, well, I had a little bit of trouble with my knee, and I wore a knee brace, and you do kind of see that quite often, like people wearing knee braces or ankle braces, or some people have plantar fasciitis. I think it's plantar fasciitis or something like that, or shin splints. And if it's something, most people just, that's why I'm saying like your sacrifices is mental, because you do if it's something that you can overcome and you just kind of get out of your body and you go through it, that's something that you can do. But I also have seen people who have, gone home for 2 weeks, or have been in a hotel for a couple of days, or they do a 0 day, or they do Nero days, or there's also an option besides Nobo and Sobo. You can do a flip-flop. And so what that is you make it to the halfway point of the trail, which is Harper's Ferry, and you make it to the halfway point of the trail, and then you actually go to Katahdin, and you become a Sobo. You become
Walking the
south.
trail in a non-continuous line,
Yeah.
usually with the intention of completing the entire trail.
Yeah. So your terminus would be, I believe, I think it's been so long since I've done it, but Harper's Ferry would be the middle of the trail.
Okay.
So,
That's Virginia?
yes, I think yeah. Yes.
Okay.
So that would be another option if you got pretty injured. You could always do a flip-flop. Like, you could take a couple of weeks off. Like, if you went to a doctor and he's like, okay, you have to take like 3 or 4 weeks off, you could do a flip-flop. You could come back and do a flip-flop and finish the trail, because in order to be, now I might be wrong at this, but I've always thought in order to be a thru hiker, you just have to hike the trail in 1 year, in like a span of 1 year, like the year of, like from January to
Through what I have here is through hiking an entire long trail in 1 season.
Yeah, which
So-
would be, I mean, a year. So, yeah, and so another thing the next thing is it restores your faith in humanity. There are people on the trail.
Restores your faith in humanity, by the way, by getting away from most fucking people.
Well,
I mean, I just had to throw
so
that. That's
there
the
are a lot of people on the trail.
But that's the first thought I had, is like when you're away from most people, you tend to, it restores your faith in those fucking people, because you kind of forgot why they're all dicks. No, but continue. I'm sorry.
One of the lingo is a trail angel, and a trail angel is somebody that does trail magic. Like, they'll give you rides, or and there are some famous trail angels out there as well, or they'll go at a trailhead.
A person who treats hikers nicely and offers food, drinks, and
Yes.
other helpful resources to them while they hike.
Yes.
And trail magic is unexpected food or help on the trail from someone.
Yes, like
They have like almost. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think somebody told me once. Don't they have like almost stops, like it's almost like a bigger, but like a post box where people put food and stuff in? Is that right?
a hiker box.
Things like that,
Well,
yeah.
that's like either in hostels or like well-known hiker
But people
hotels.
put like tuna and shit like that.
Well,
in there,
it's
or-
more of like stuff. Like I've seen, it's just kind of like stuff for hikers. Like if you're a hiker and you have something that you don't want, but you think maybe somebody else might want. Like if
Okay.
you
like a trading post kind of.
kind of.
Situation.
Sometimes you can find some real gems in there, and sometimes it's kind of like.
Sometimes it's just Preparation H and an old copy of Mein Kampf.
Exactly. Exactly. I think that was a hiker box one time.
There you go.
But yeah, just the trail angels you meet are so incredibly special, and the people you meet, you don't have to, but, and I wouldn't recommend it doing alone, but I'd have hitchhiked. You do hitchhike when you're on the trail. I've hitchhiked several times. I've never hitchhiked alone. I've always hitchhiked either with a male or another male, or with a male, or a group of people. So I've never hitchhiked alone. I do want to keep that clear. Never hitchhike alone. I do not recommend that. And so, but the people you meet while you're hitchhiking is, they're just I've met so many sweet people. And we did go through this. I was hiking with one of my buddies, and we were hiking through this town, and we were getting low on food, and it was not good food. It was like ramen noodles and tuna, like always. And we found this family that were like cooking out, and they were grilling burgers, and they found out that we were thru hikers, or wanting to be thru, or at the time we were thru hikers, and they said, "Can you come eat with us?" And they had hamburgers and hot dogs, and they just wanted to like hear our story and hear why we wanted to hike the trail, and they were just so incredibly sweet. And you just meet so many people like that, and that are just so incredible. I mean, you do have your bad experiences with people on the trail, but you do have that just genuinely good people, and everybody on the trail, all of the hikers are just so happy to be there, and you meet so many incredible people from all different backgrounds and even different countries, and it's just a really great experience.
And I could see that, and all my joking aside about humanity, I could see people being more positive on the trail. You'd probably have to have a positive outlook to want to even do something like the trail. So
Yeah.
you're going to probably run into those things. And then, of course, going through the trail, running into these small towns, you're probably going to run into that small town hospitality, things like that. I mean, there's really no reason to be rude or gruff with people. On the hitchhiking side, though, I did hear this joke the other day, and I'm probably going to butcher it, but this guy picked up a hitchhiker, and, like, the hitchhiker was like, he was like, you know, man, like, that was really nice of you. Like, how do you know that I'm not a serial killer? And, like, the driver sits there and he's, like, thinking to himself, he's like, well, what are the chances that there'd be 2 serial killers in one car? I don't remember who said that joke. I think it was a comedian, but it just, you're talking about hitchhiking, and that just popped in and kind of cracked me up. I was like,
Yeah.
but, yeah, anyway, so I digress. But, no, that's great. So, I mean, you have these good experiences, you meet good people.
Yeah. And then the next thing about the trail is that, and that hikers will definitely tell you this, is that a common saying on the trail is that the trail provides. And I do have this, like, kind of cool story, and I don't know if, like, people, like, think it's bullshit or whatever,
Yeah,
but
throw it out there.
to me at the time, it was so incredible, and it was just something I needed. So, I don't know if there's a thing on the trail called Giardia. I don't know if it's when you drink bad water.
Giardia. Yes, I've heard of that.
So I don't know if I had it. I'm assuming I had it because.
What is that? It's like the shits from drinking bad water, something
and you
like
throw
that?
up, and it's just so incredibly awful. So this was in the middle of summer, and it was so hot, and I was with one of my hiking buddies, and he got really sick the night before. And so that day I got really sick, and I was throwing up, and I was hiking up a mountain, and I was sitting on a log throwing up off the mountain. And he was like, okay, like, he was like, Twizzler, I'm going to take your pack, I'm going to put it at the top of the mountain, and then so you can hike up the mountain without your pack, because your packs are heavy. My pack was really heavy. It was like 30, 45 pounds. And so he was like, I'll take your pack up there, and then, you know, you can go to the top of the mountain, because I was so sick. And we were really far from water. We did not have a lot of water, because we had to, the previous night we had kind of slowed down because he was kind of sick. And so we were running out of water in the middle of winter, or the middle of summer. And so, and then we didn't really know what we were going to do, because we had gone to a stream that was kind of dry, that was dried up. There was no good water. And so, you know, when you're sick and you have diarrhea, you're very dehydrated. Mm-hmm. So,
you're running out of mountain money quick.
Exactly. So he hiked up the mountain, and he comes back down, and he goes, there is a Gatorade just sitting on the top of a rock up there. And I was like, what?
Oh, that shit's got fentanyl in it or something.
No, it was completely sealed. And so I was like, you're joking. And so when we got up there was a Gatorade just sitting on the top of a rock.
What flavor?
I think it was red. I don't know.
The fruit punch?
I think it was blue. It was either red or blue. Maybe orange.
There's a big difference. This was one of the greatest moments in your life. You don't remember what color the Gatorade was?
Yeah.
Please watch the memory episode.
And so we got there, and I was just sitting there, and I was, you know, I was just able to rest. And there was actually a person playing the ukulele, like that, somewhere over the rainbow. And it was just such a great moment, because I was just so sick.
Was that big Hawaiian guy? Was he there?
I don't know.
You'd know. He was a big guy. Hawaiian guy. He did something.
Well, off in the distance, they were playing a ukulele. It was really weird.
Okay.
And so
I prefer the harmonica in my bush moments.
And so we got the Gatorade, and then the next day we got up. I was still really weak, and then we found these guys, and they were like, we heard somebody was sick the other day or something. And I was like, yeah, that was me. I was kind of sick. And they gave us all of their snacks. They were day hikers, and gave us all of their snacks. Like, they gave us crackers and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, what? Because we didn't have any, like, sick food. We had, like, you know, gross hiker food. And they gave us, like, crackers. It was just such a great moment. And
so there was an undisclosed color of Gatorade on the rock. I bet you that Gatorade is fucking delicious, though.
It was
even
the best
hot.
Gatorade. It was hot, and it was the best Gatorade. that I have ever had in my entire life. And but that just goes to show you, like, it's weird happenstances that happen on the trail where it's like the trail provides, and you know, just other little simple things just happen like that on the trail, and everybody's just like, the trail provides, man.
Trail provides, man.
Yeah.
Trail provides.
And
Okay.
so lastly, kind of what I want, and then we'll get into like some more
Okay.
questions.
Before that, I don't want to lose track of this one thought I had. Did you explain to us why you were called Twizzler? You said that in the last thing. Guy said,
yeah.
"Hey, Twizzler." So I just wanted to go back to that for 1 second before I forget, because we can't end this show without knowing why you're Twizzler.
So yeah, I think I kind of like mentioned it at the beginning. So my dad, so we were hiking. This was actually before we went on the trail. We went on another hike, and I love Twizzlers, I love candy, Sour Patch Kids.
So wait, you can get a name on any hike. It doesn't have to be the Appalachian Trail. It doesn't
Well,
have to be a trail.
Well, no. Well, we were so yes and no, I guess.
Or you guys were just being playful.
Yeah, we were just being playful, and so I was. I had like a little fanny pack or something, and I had my snacks in there. And my dad would always hike ahead of me, and so I was back there just eating Twizzlers, and he just like looks back and he goes, "Are you eating Twizzlers?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "That's your trail name, Twizzler." And I'm like, "No." And he's like, then it just kind of stuck.
It was a phase she was going through, because honestly, had she been on that trail probably 6 months earlier, her nickname would have been Sour Patch Kid.
Yes. So I'm kind of glad that it was Twizzlers, because Sour Patch Kid would have been weird.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's a great start. Continue with your last point, though. I didn't mean to cut you off.
The last point is being able to see wild animals, and I know that some people are like, meh.
Nah, I fucking love
But,
animals. People that are in, go fuck yourselves.
I saw snakes a lot, which was terrifying, and but I saw this black snake one time, and I swear, like, I screamed and he screamed at the same time. It was a hilarious moment.
I got a picture of a snake screaming. That shit's hilarious. Picture that. Picture the snake. Ah!
Yeah, like, because he was on a log, and he was, like, face level, and he just, like, came out, and, like, I screamed, and he was just like, ah! And then just, like, I ran away. It was pretty hilarious. And when we were in the Shenandoahs, like, the deers are incredible there. They'll, like, come up to you, and you can basically, like, see them very, like, they're just all around.
One thing I'm curious about is that realistically, North America, which is where we are, has so many less lethal insects, snakes, spiders, all of that than, like, every other country. Almost. Like, you go to Australia, everything wants to kill you. You go to South America, like, everything wants to kill you. Why would people not, and I know that you did the trail, why would you not take I don't know, like, take an hour and just read a book to understand what you're dealing with as far as those elements?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, realistically, you'd be looking for a couple of different species of spider, possibly, and it'd just be good to be able to identify
And then
those.
the snakes,
and
like
then
the
the snakes.
copperheads.
So why would that not be something that you would think about getting an education on before you
Well,
go?
people do. A lot of hikers basically know that common knowledge, because, and you know, they'll like leaves of 3, leaves them be, stuff like that, because you can get really, you know, have a really bad experience with poison ivy. And bears, like, just common sense of what to know, because they're not grizzly bears. So, you know, if you see a bear, do not run, don't run. Because once you start running, they're going to think you're prey. So I did come into contact with bears, and they just kind of, like, looked at me. I kind of tried to half bark at them, like, scream.
You're supposed to make yourself big, aren't you?
Yeah, like, you have your trekking poles, which are poles that you hike with, and you just kind of, like, bang them together and just try to make yourself big. And if it's a mama bear, back away slowly.
Yeah, don't fuck with mama bear.
Yeah, so, you know, definitely do your research. Don't just take my word for it. Definitely do your research.
Yeah, if you see cubs, don't fuck with the cubs. Mama bear's nearby.
Yes.
That's not a good idea.
Yeah, because a mama bear
There's a reason that we call fierce women who care for their children deeply mama bear, and fuck with a cub and find out.
Yeah, that's not good. But yeah, I know that you wanted to also talk about, like, the Shenandoahs and Maccabee's Knob and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to talk about that. One thing that I was also curious about is just, you know, because it sounds like you learned some mistakes as well as probably made some really good decisions from researching before you went. But kind of run us through what you want to look at when you're packing for this thing, because I know it's very important to have certain supplies. It's very important to be ready for certain things, but at the same time, I also understand that you're hiking with this pack on you and whatever is on you, 14 to 20 miles a day, and you obviously want to watch the weight.
Yes, yeah.
So
I did have a heavy.
tell us a little bit about what the average hiker should probably try to accomplish when they pack.
So I'm not an expert, and I know a lot of people are probably gonna think I'm crazy, but
Well, I mean, I think it was your first time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if you were to do it again tomorrow, you probably would pack differently.
Yes, absolutely. So so I would typically sometimes I say if you're first starting out, unless you're just an ultra lighter, and you do have people that even like cut their toothbrushes in half to save on weight. But I would say, or they like sleep in like a bivy sack or something. I couldn't do that. I would say a bivy sack, like they just sleep in a sack.
Oh, it's like made for sleeping outside though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said a baby sack at first.
No, a bivy sack.
What the fuck is a baby sack?
Or some people just try to do it like they try to like camp at every shelter. Like they don't bring a shelter with them or something like that.
Is that reasonable? That every 14 to 20 miles there's a shelter? Is that a reasonable expectation?
I believe so. I'm not completely sure more up in the northern parts, but for me that I believe like if not, you could because there's a guide called the AWOL's guide, and so usually he updates it and stuff so you can see like the shelters and stuff like that. I wouldn't recommend that because there are a lot of like rats, and sometimes the shelters can be full, so I wouldn't like recommend like just doing on shelters. But I would recommend like definitely get a tent, like spend your money on a tent. Like do not like if you want to do it this year and you don't have the money to do it, try to just at least save up a little bit and plan, and get a really good tent. Like if
you should probably, if you really want to take this thing seriously, you should probably be researching what is the best lightweight but durable tent.
Yeah.
Look at the reviews. Look at what other people I'm sure have used this and have left reviews. Check those out.
And a one-person tent is very small. So I like a two-person tent. A two-person tent is a one-person. I'm not fitting in a one-person tent. A one-person, I don't like one-person tents.
Couldn't roll over in that some bitch.
I do have some advice about the reviews. So I got an incredibly good sleeping pad because everybody was like, you have to get this. Like all the hikers have it, and like everybody was like, this is
all the hikers
best.
have it. Come on, Mom.
It was like the best pad, and I got it, and I freaking hate it. And it was so expensive. I hate it to this. Oh, I just hate it.
You still have it?
I do.
Why didn't you shove it in one of those boxes?
Because it was expensive. And it's so loud. It's so uncomfortable. Like, I hate it.
Loud how? What?
Like, when you move over, it's like...
Holy shit. Sounds like a fucking grizzly bear in a bag or something.
Yes.
Wow.
Like when you turn around.
That might be good to scare animals away, man. You got some raccoon there that's like, I'm going to fucking check for candy bars in this bitch's pocket, and you hear something, you roll over and go, and then the raccoon takes off. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
It's so loud when you turn over. Like, it's so loud to the point where people are like, I heard you.
You're planning on hooking up on the trail. Watch out for this pad, though, because that sounds like it could be really awkward.
I don't want to say what pad it is, but it's so bad.
Every time you hook up with somebody and you start...
It's so loud. It sounds like plastic, like rubbing up beside each other. It's a really bad pad.
It sounded nothing like she made it out to be, but I had to roll with that.
But definitely, like, don't, like, get the right size boots. Like, definitely try your boots out.
And when she's saying right size boots, she's saying you might have to have a size or a half size larger. So prepare for that.
Because you do have to keep in mind that your hands and your feet do swell. Also, like, don't cheap out on your sleeping system, like your sleep pad, your sleeping bag, your tent.
So how many sets of clothes are you bringing on something like this? Just one, and you're washing them out in a river somewhere?
So you definitely want a bunch of socks, or at least two pairs of socks, because you need to keep your feet dry.
Probably socks and underwear would be what I would think, right? Because I mean, you
Yeah.
probably don't want your nether regions too moist. No, I mean I'm not being funny though, but I'm
Yeah.
saying like for rubbing and for
Yeah.
for chafing or
Yes.
even just with women,
Yeah.
just the possibility of infection or something.
Yeah,
You
and
probably want to have
I
clean,
had
dry underwear.
I had
and-
like a little Ziploc bag. Like I would get like wet wipes, and I would have like a Ziploc bag, so you can just like wipe off the salt from your body, especially like places that rub.
I swear to God, to this day, I even in my car, anytime I go anywhere really, I always have a pair of dry socks and
Yes.
a baggie.
Yeah.
And that was something my grandfather was really big on and instilled in me when I was a kid because he was in the Korean War. And dude said, above all else in life, the one thing you never want to not fucking have if you need it is a dry pair of socks.
Yes.
And I never was in that situation, but I always had that dry pair
Yeah.
of socks in case I was. But he just drove that point home to the point where, like, even to this day, I'm like, I just have dry pairs of socks and baggies, like, in my glove box.
Exactly.
Just in case something ever happens.
Well, so and because I've seen people that have had to get off of the trail because of blisters, and so what I do is I actually get toe socks and I put the actual other sock. You can they're usually like wool socks. You put the toe sock liner and then you get the wool socks and then you do your boots.
Are you wearing wool socks even when it's warm?
Yeah,
Okay,
I do.
just to keep your feet extra dry and
Yeah, it's just kind of, and then they're more durable. And I like trail runners better than actual boots. Trail runners are kind of basically like tennis shoes with like a thicker sole.
Okay.
But you can usually find them in like, you can use at a hiking store. You can find them like with the boots and stuff. But they're better. They're more light. And so then you get your. A lot of people use gaiters, which are the things that go over your boot to kind of keep the rocks and stuff out. But the most important thing that I found, especially even if I just could not prevent a blister, is moleskin. Like moleskin and a nice pair of small little scissors will save your life.
Okay.
Will save your feet. So you definitely want to have that. You definitely want to have an emergency kit.
little first aid kit.
Yeah, like a little first aid, like with moleskin, any kind of just whatever. And you do want to have, you have like your little, like your personal item bag. A lot of people do not wear deodorant on the trail because they think it's too heavy. They just don't want to mess with it.
I'd imagine you're leaving all of your personal hygiene
Yes.
or beauty products at home at
Yes.
that point.
Oh, yeah.
Minus the
Other than
toothbrush and
sunscreen, you do
toothbrush,
get pretty.
sunscreen.
Even though you don't think you would, especially like in the winter, like when there's no leaves on the trees, you do get a lot of sun, and you
Yeah,
can get.
yeah,
you
it's
can
like
get
that
sunburned.
overcast in the ocean where it's cloudy
Yeah.
out, but you burns your ass.
Exactly. So you do kind of like want to kind of think ahead of like, okay, this or that, or I know if I go on a like even like a 1 mile hike, like this bothers me or this bothers me. Definitely try your shoes out. Definitely take your gear out.
I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm not a big hiker, but just from talking to you about this and what you want to bring and everything, I would say plan a small hike before you take on a big hike.
Plan a small hike.
So then that way you could actually sit here and
Take
be
your
like, well, I
gear.
never needed this. I don't need that. This is too
Yeah.
heavy. That didn't work. I need better this. Kind of go over that checklist before you really hit it hard.
Yeah, and kind of like with going into the closing aspect, you do. So I like leggings. I like to hike in leggings. So I kind of like if I was gonna say like maybe bring a pair of leggings and have like a pair of shorts and maybe use your shorts as underwear. And if you do have to have like 1 or 2 pairs of underwear, like have one there because you can take camp soap and wash your clothes in the stream. And then just keep a undershirt, like a tank top or something you can hike in when you get hot, a long sleeve shirt, and then definitely, or if you hike in pants, you can have pants, but if you're going to have the pants, do the zip off pants where you can just make it. Those are really easy, and you definitely want to get an incredibly good bubble coat. Like I have a bubble coat. I love my coat. It's lightweight, it's down, it's just incredible, and I love it. And then get a really good like rain jacket. Don't get rain pants because your pants, no matter what you're going to do, your pants are going to get wet. So I would recommend getting a really good, like, durable bubble jacket and being able to put a really nice, like, kind of long raincoat over you. I was using a poncho. I did not like the poncho because when I would go up mountains, when I would go up the trail.
It's a lot of slippery plastic material.
Yeah, and I would kind of like, sometimes I would, if I had to go up like a high step, like I would kind of step on the poncho, so I don't really recommend that. But some people do like ponchos. I didn't like it. I just got a really nice, like light jacket, like rain jacket. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, excellent. So it sounds like preparation is very important. It sounds like kind of having a good idea of when you're going to go. So
Yes.
planning to go during the proper season so that you
But
can miss that weather.
But also, if you know that you're slow, also plan that too. Like, say, okay, so I'm slow and I don't want to do as many miles. Like, you might want to start in March or February as opposed to like April.
Okay. All right. And it sounds like other than that, most things the trail will provide.
Yeah.
So
I did kind of want to talk about McAvee's Knob and.
So I've got an idea here because we're doing this is going to be a two-parter. We went into this knowing it was going to be a two-parter, and we're just about at the hour mark here.
Okay.
So the second part is kind of more my gig, and I feel like we're going to have some time to go over these.
Okay. Oh, so you want to
things.
go? Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that at the end of the second hour here.
Okay. Yeah.
I am going to go ahead and screenshot and show you these terms because I think a lot of these terms are really interesting. The hiker terminology, I thought some of it was kind of cute, some of it was kind of funny, some of it was kind of interesting. And yeah, so I mean, everything that we've been talking about, just go ahead and take that into consideration. And honestly, we're not the last stop before you plan a trip like this. So go ahead and we're discussing this from Liza's experience and kind of talking about the things that you would want to consider, some of the things you want to think about. But obviously, you're going to want to reach out to more professional sources than us to look into these things. So even though we might have some good advice and some good ideas of what to look into, or at least Liza does, because I've never done this, please look into the professional sources as well and kind of do these little smart tips and tricks that are going to be good for you.
Yeah. Definitely hike your own hike. That's the best advice I can give somebody. And there's a lot of YouTubers that have done even triple crowns. So, and they have incredible advice and they know all about everything. So.
And that's the thing too, is that, and I'll just say that really quickly without getting into a long drawn out story here, but I was a little intimidated. I went on the Bourbon Trail. I was a little intimidated by going. Bourbon Trail is not a hiking trail, by the way, guys. It's just where all the bourbon's made in Kentucky. But I did go on that trail, so I have been a trailblazer of sorts. But the whole point is that I went to some of the bigger distilleries, and I was a little embarrassed when I went there because I've always loved bourbon, I've always loved whiskey, but I've always loved a mixed drink with Coke. I do drink it straight at times, but it's normally with Coke. I like the flavor, I like the taste, I like a good whiskey and Coke. And I was a little embarrassed by that when I went there because all these people were talking about all the things that you get from these whiskeys and bourbons and kind of the process and everything. And I felt like, oh man, like I'm like this chump because I'm like a whiskey and Coke guy, and all these people are sitting here like these professional. But
straight whiskey.
But we went to one place, and one of the distilleries that we went to, the guy straight up was like, dude, like bourbon and whiskey should be enjoyed. Drink it however you want. Enjoy it however you want. If you want it with ice, if you want it with Coke, if you however you drink your whiskey is the right way to drink whiskey. And I mean, even though it's such a simple concept, it's like I realize that we all are kind of burdened by fitting in. We're all kind of burdened by the crowd and what the crowd thinks a lot of times, and we don't even realize it. And the whole point of that story was just to go ahead and say, yes, I agree with Liza. This is your journey. If you wanted to go on the trail, it's your hike, it's your journey. Don't let anybody talk you into anything that you're not comfortable with. Don't let peer pressure be a thing. Make it your own and, kind of have fun with it and let it be your journey. Yeah, I think that's what you were trying to say.
Yeah, and exactly. If you want to stay in a hotel every night, if you want to have somebody follow you with a camper, like there has been people that have done that. Like,
fuck judgment. Fuck what other people think or what other people do. I'm being blunt about that, and I'm just being honest with you. I'm now in my late 30s, and honestly, there have been so many times in my life that maybe I missed out on things or maybe I didn't do things to the fullest because of some kind of peer influence, and I've hit a point in my life where you know, I'm not going to let that shit fly anymore, and I'm going to do what the fuck I want to do
Yeah.
because it's my life and it's my experience, and I'm going to enjoy myself. And I think that that's the same way you should take this on.
And you can wear Crocs if you want to.
I wouldn't wear Crocs, though.
You can wear Crocs hiking.
I wouldn't do that because Crocs suck. But that's just, don't let my, wear Crocs, whatever. Whatever, fucking wear Crocs then. So I did say this is going to be a two-parter, and we are at the end of part 1 now. We will be back in just a couple minutes for part 2. And we're going to have a different spin on this whole trail experience. And you'll see what I mean when we come back. And maybe a week in between each video. And I appreciate you hanging in there to see part 2. But as of right now, thank you everybody for watching or listening. And take care of yourselves and each other. And thank you, Liza.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great night, day, morning, whatever it is that you're watching this. And please stay tuned for part 2. It'll be a lot of fun.